VPC. All right, so virtual private cloud. All right, so the VPC is a service provided by AWS to create network configurations for us in order to fill in the resources like the servers, like some services, they could be running inside a network configuration, right? So, but first of all, we need to create a network configuration. What's the configuration about? So let's see the VPC itself. We can indicate like what's the IP addresses, the range of the IP addresses, okay, and then we create subnets from it. So the subnet could be publicly accessible or could be private network. Okay, and also we have the route tables that is used to control the traffic, right? Like you want to access outside, the route table will tell you the request where to go. Okay, and the internet gateways is used for internet public connectivities. You want to connect to the internet. Okay, things like that. There's a lot of related to IPv6, a lot of related to static IP addresses like fixed IP addresses, networking control. Okay, VPC peering. So all this network configurations almost in the VPC service here. Okay, so it doesn't provide us any computation or storage. It's all about network traffics. Okay, whether two servers can connect to each other, whether you can connect to the public. Okay, things like that. So that's all controlled by the VPCs. Just look at this chart we used for the training. We have a network layout, right? We have a system that deployed in both public network and the private network. Private network means that we cannot directly access it from outside public, even though you know where it is, you know the server's credentials, but because there's no physical route, right? Physical way to connect to the server, so you cannot directly connect to those servers. Public network means that the servers inside the public can be accessed, right, by the user. So here usually this is the case, the user access our public server and the public server will then access our private server. Okay, so that the user cannot bypass the public one. So here we can just apply some filters, security constraint, tokens, whatever, okay, just to make sure the user only have one point to access, and then after that the server can access anything that they want. Okay, also like something like the database and the infrastructure related servers, log servers, and the Docker servers, registries, those are all should be private, so that you don't want the user directly touch those or hackers directly to access to them, at least easily, right? So this is the purpose of using a VPC. So, and also let's see if a company has multiple different applications, then they can create multiple different VPCs so that the systems are isolated, right, from the network's perspective. You don't have to deploy everything, all the servers in one network, and they are just mixed together, and you cannot control, okay, which one can access what. So this is the purpose of using VPC. All right, so let's just quickly create a new VPC, or if you don't want, you can just use the default one. Okay, so all the regions will have a default VPCs, and they have a default CIDR block. Okay, so this is the IP address, okay, by default. And if we want, we can just create a new one. Okay, let's create a new VPC, and then we can just choose a VPC along with other resources, right? We can create a VPC, excuse me, with a name. Okay, so we can have this SEP training. Okay. And then the CIDR block, we can just keep like 10.0.0.16. Then in this CIDR block, we're gonna have 65,000 IP addresses. Okay, so but this is not public's IP address. This is a private IP address. Means that if we create another VPC will have the same CIDR block, then they're gonna have the same IP address. But because they are in different VPCs, so those IP address is only for private usage. Okay, so that doesn't matter. It's just like for each room you have a same IP, because they are different rooms, so it won't have any confusion. Okay, you can just choose whether you want IPv6 or not, and then we can have a number of availability zones. You can see here we have a VPC. We have 2 availability zones. Okay, and each availability zone will have its own public subnet and private subnet. Okay, so it's for redundancy purpose, for make our system more high available. But if for test purpose, probably we just need one. Okay, so it's like one availability zone with the two subnet. One is public, one is private. So this is gonna be like this one, right? So we have only one zone and one public, one private. If you want two of each, okay, so to make your server more reliable, more available, so then you can just choose 3. Okay, so then you're gonna have 6 subnet. Okay, 2 subnet. Creating VPCs won't charge any money, so you can just, but it just still can increase the complexity of the architecture, right? Number of public subnet. Okay, we can just see, oh, we don't need any subnet, public subnet, right? Just then you can see the gateway is gone, right? Route table is gone, and if you choose one, then you can have 2 separate configuration here. Okay, and number of private subnet. Okay, if you just say nothing, then nothing. If you select one, then you're gonna have one public. Okay, one's private, we're gonna have one private. Okay, so for the demo purpose, we're gonna just use one for each. Okay, and NAT gateway. So then we if you create network gateway, then this private network can access outside. If you don't have NAT gateway, then the private network, the servers cannot access the public network from the server to outside. Okay, of course, from outside to inside, it's not possible because the private network, okay, it will block. But if we have a NAT gateway, then from your inside your subnet private, you can access outside. Okay, so like your server can send a request to outside, but outside cannot send a request to inside. All right, so then this is here, and then we have VPC endpoints. So this one is used for S3. We can just close it because this is mainly used for S3 service. Okay, so it's like internally we can have a door opened to the S3 service so that the S3 request won't be sent through the public network. But for this one, we don't need it now, so just disable it, and we just enable DNS hostname so that our servers will have a DNS hostname. Okay, I know there's a lot of terms related to network. If you are not familiar or that, then you can maybe learn more, but it's not in this video's scope. Okay, and after that, we can just click on create, and it will take some seconds, okay, to create all the resources there. And the NAT gateway is a resource that may charge you. So if you are running out of the free tier, so just make sure that you delete the VPC, okay? And NAT gateway is here, okay? It's pending. So we don't need to do a lot of modification once this is done because the VPC will be created automatically. You can see with the CIDR block. And also our route table will be created. Our network control access control list will be created. But we can just take a look at it. Okay, so the route table. Okay, so this is the one we just created, and also there is another one. I think it's this one or this one. Okay, I don't know, but one is for the default. Or this one. Okay, here it's saying that this is the VPC one. Okay, so this is the default VPC. Route table, and this is another one. It's saying that this is the public route table. Okay, so the difference between them is if you look at the route. Okay, so the default VPC route is if you try to go to anywhere, okay, from this CIDR block, okay, 10.0 point whatever, okay, and then the target is local, so it's like in the local network, okay, local VPC. But if you look at the public one, okay, so if we look at the route, you can see here, if you go to 10.0 point whatever, then you go to local. It's the same as the default. But also we have this one here. Okay, if you go to public network, okay, 0.0.0.0/0, and then you're gonna go to the internet gateway. So it means that like if anywhere in the public network, okay, so then the internet gateway will kick in and you will deliver the request. Okay, so this is the internet gateway. It's automatically created, so we don't need to worry too much about it. So just have the impression or have the concept that VPC is used to create our network layout, okay, so that the resources created inside our subnet, okay, or inside our VPC will automatically have this configuration of the network. Okay, so the next step is we're going to create servers into this public or private network so that we can take a look at the accessibility of it. All right, thanks.